Thank you, everyone joining our session. Could you be quiet while you are eating? Could we be just quiet? We have a lot of young people who will talk here while we have to do this. My name is Svein Mathisen. I'm working with Anders Oskal at the International Center for Reindeer Husbandry. I'm also professor at Sami University of Applied Sciences in Sameland in Norway. And we have a session here, reindeer herders' food knowledge systems. And I will briefly, while you are taking your food, introduce you to this project, which is funded by the World Bank GEF, Global Environmental Facility, which is now changing completely from state focus to civil society. So civil society is going to fix the food knowledge systems. That means indigenous people, youth, and gender, women. Our project is called the Reindeer Herding and Resilience. Today, we have youth from all over the circumpolar north. We have people from Doha herding community in Mongolia. We have Evenki from the Evenki region of eastern Siberia. We have the Nets from northern part of Yamal, and we have Sami reindeer herders directly. Could you please join us, Sara Elvira? Sit down. And we have also Sami scholars working with indigenous knowledge online with us. She had a problem to find babysitting, so that's why we're pushing a little bit of time. But I'll tell you a little bit what we do. So we will have short presentation from all of this. What do we mean with herders, indigenous knowledge related to food knowledge? So reindeer husbandry is a part of an Arctic civilization, which goes back a couple of thousand years, strongly tied to nature, all affecting the diets of the herders. Food culture of Arctic reindeer herders is unique, and it's a unique phenomenon, and its knowledge are complex and holistic. It's a complex system which we always forget about, you know? We make it always so easy, while the world is quite complex. The food system of reindeer herders are also nomadic. Indigenous people have a very rich understanding of food, and we will see that very shortly. In this project, for many years, indigenous youth has been working, as you recognize them. Nietzsche is here, Alona is here. This picture is taken almost 10 years ago in our Sami village of Kautokeino. Still we are together. Still we work together with issues on food and food knowledge. So all these youth has contributed to different kind of reports, books. Yes, we do publish indigenous knowledge in science articles, and we do co-production, but I always said, if you're going to have co-production, you need self-production. So indigenous youth, the herders, have to produce their own stuff in their kind of reporting system. So here you see even Russian, English, even our famous ELO report, published and produced by these young people. Back to Norway. Norway, that's one part of the Sameland. And we talk about two landscapes of northern Norway. It creates problems. You have a Norwegian landscape and you have a Sami landscape at the same time. Sometimes the Norwegian landscape is blind or actually deaf, completely deaf to the Sami landscape. Actually, this is a picture of a reindeer eye. who is able to see everything differently. But if you want to work with indigenous knowledge, you have to be open for different perspectives. And this is very strong in Finland, Sweden, and Norway. We only see it in the one way. So, for example, here, in this article written by the old, he died this summer, Professor Mæhle, he talked about Jassa. And Norwegians see Jassa in one perspective, reindeer herders, Sami see it in a completely different way. Same thing. Sami reindeer herders see the delicious food, the quality of the food, the protein, fat, the fat which is good for your health, no carbohydrates. While the Norwegian and the state see this landscape, windmills, the green economy has changed the pastures of the reindeer herders. Because of that, Arctic indigenous food system is broken, completely broken. 30% of the reindeer pastures has already been lost. So what are we going to eat? So this is happening now, transferring the economy from oil and gas to green electricity. You take it from the herders' environment. The food system is broken and we have to fix it. And in our project, funded by Jeff, we will work for the next 4 years by engaging the civil society. We have to stop the land degradation, more or less, now. We can't continue. We can't talk about climate change or loss of biodiversity, loss of nature, if we not even try to stop the land degradation. So we are here to raise the awareness that in the Arctic, the pasture is disappearing. And with the disappearing of the land, the reindeer herders, Evenki, and Nanette, Ducha, and Sami, food systems disappear in front of us. And land degradation includes the loss of grazing land. So I said 30% of Sami land is gone as potential production area for food. 30% is already lost. So it's kind of dramatic, and we have to work together. Yesterday, a Sami philosopher and reindeer herder wrote this. Sami activists are now very visible in Oslo, the capital of Norway. They had a meeting with the King of Norway yesterday, but the real conflict has arisen between the Norwegian Supreme Court and the Norwegian government, where the latter does not comply with a handed down judgment, which threatens the existence of law and actually of a democracy. So we have a system in Norway where the nomadic Sami herders try to maintain the economy while the conflict is actually between the Supreme Court and the Norwegian government. This affects the herders' food system. So what are we going to eat in the future? So we see now in our little community, we have 3,000 people living in Kautokeino, the Sami community. We are flushed with pork meat. We don't know where it comes from. The production system for reindeer is disappearing. The traditional knowledge is disappearing. We are flushed with pork meat. Actually, the Danish priest in 1767 said, Sami reindeer herders do not eat pork. So why do we have to offer nomadic people with pork produced in Denmark and Germany? That's why I mean the food system is broken and it has to be fixed. So climate change is about what we are going to eat in the future. And today, for me, it seems it's Coca-Cola and it's hamburgers. The Sami food system is very rich, it's holistic, and actually there is a system to use the whole animal, not anything is thrown away. That's what we show here in this laboratory. This is not a restaurant, but it's a laboratory to show you that the way to do it, it's a Sami perspective. It's not the European way to do it. Fat is enormous resources. Sami wording or words of fat is enormous. We are talking about a couple of hundred words only on fat, which tells the importance of fat. So, are we going to eat meat? People says you shouldn't eat meat because of the methane production. But here you see that when reindeer eats lichen, you know, methane production decreases dramatically. If you are going to eat meat, eat reindeer meat, because reindeer doesn't release methane when it's eating lichen. Eat reindeer meat. Eat more reindeer meat. It's environmentally friendly with respect to methane release. Reindeer herders also fish. So it's a holistic system of food production. And herbs, heraculum, bosca in Sami, is also very important. And berries. This is cloveberries. Milking. Here in Evenki culture, conservation of the food is almost disappearing in the Arctic. Nobody knows, very little documented. So what are we going to eat in the future? In our community, sugar and pork. You know? While we have 80,000 reindeer, and the food system is broken. So I will finish here with my introduction, but my conclusion is there is a need to develop knowledge and training. And here, Alfred Larsen, we have a picture of Alfred, he is always behind. He is the only actually exact teacher we have in our community. And through years in and years out, Alfred has been trying to tell us the quality of Sami food system. Nobody has been listening to him. Nobody has actually been supporting him. He is not listening, he is always working. But I say that because it's a big thank to Alfred Larsen, because he never give up. There is a value here. There's a value for the Sami tradition and knowledge. It's a value for the Sami. That's for Alfred Larsen. It's for you. So we need more Alfred. He should be cloned, and we need more education, because we are coming from Europe, and we don't have a proper education system, Anders. There's no Sami food knowledge education. It's broken. Not for the small children, not for the schools, not for university. We don't have an education. We could at least start there. So there is a need to rethink the food system strategies very clearly. We have to together rethink it, because within a couple of years it's all gone. Believe me, in the Arctic. We must protect the pastures and the rivers for the health and economy of the indigenous communities, also in the Arctic. It's happening now. And all of this is published in a book we are releasing today in Springer about resilience. And then I will give the floor, floor to the next speaker. This is Ravna Berit Maria Sara. She is a Sami reindeer herder. She migrates with a lot of reindeer between summer and winter pastures. Here she has collected Angelica for the summer. She is very close to defend her PhD on traditional knowledge on Sami food systems. And she is at home, and she is supposed to go now on Zoom and tell us a little bit what she did. Is she there? Are you there, Ravna? Not yet. Borde spart in Ravna Berit Maria.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Please.
I will share my screen. I have a very short presentation. So can you let me know that you see it?
We see it. Open it completely. There you
Like
are.
that? Okay. So thank you, Svein, for inviting me to this session and giving me the possibility to join you through Zoom. Technology is awesome. So to follow up Professor Svein Mathisen, I will talk about Sami indigenous food knowledge and my research on this topic. I am myself a Sami reindeer herder placed in Gårdegeit in northern Norway. And I work as a teacher and a researcher at Sami University of Applied Sciences. I am a wife and a mom and also an academic. This first picture of this reindeer herd was sent by my husband yesterday when he is migrating with our herd towards the autumn pastures. I am above average interested in food and especially in our own food culture. So it was very natural for me to do a research on this topic. And as an indigenous peoples, we all have a foot in our traditional way of living, but we also have a foot in the modern society. So in my home, in my family, and even in my village here in Gårdegeit, the indigenous knowledge about food have a great value. Our everyday life here in the Arctic is based on this knowledge. And children are a very important part of the food culture already from their early lives. And they all take part of this traditional way of living. Anyway, indigenous peoples have often felt that their knowledge is not taken into account in general society. So my PhD is a documentation of food knowledge. And my main focus has been on Sami reindeer herders' knowledge about reindeer meat and reindeer slaughtering. The reindeer herders' assessment of food quality starts already at the herd on the tundra when they are choosing which reindeer to slaughter. And this food quality assessment follows until he boils the meat and eats it. The title of my PhD project is Sami Reindeer Herders Food Knowledge System, Multiple Ways of Knowing. And it is soon published. So what did I find out in this project? Well, Sami reindeer herders have a very detailed knowledge about their food culture. This knowledge covers so many aspects, and in my work I have basically documented the slaughtering methods, meat preservation, and food preparation, and how reindeer herders use knowledge in their everyday life. From 1950s, many changes occurred in Sami reindeer husbandry, which also influenced their food knowledge. These pictures show you a Sami reindeer herder slaughtering on the ground. The photo of the building is the first modern stationary slaughterhouse in our village, which was opened in 1957. This slaughterhouse was a very clear change for the food knowledge of Sami reindeer herders. They started to deliver reindeer to the slaughterhouse and were not supposed to slaughter traditionally anymore. Even with all of the new and modern systems today, the Sami food knowledge is still alive in the Sami homes. This means that Sami reindeer herders are actually food sovereign at their homes. That means that the herders are choosing themselves what to eat and what method to use to prepare the food, and also the choice of resources are based on their own knowledge. We still sell reindeer to the slaughterhouse, but when it comes to our home consumption, it's based on the indigenous food knowledge. For example, Sami reindeer herders have a system, a knowledge system, which ensures high quality food. When they slaughter reindeer for their own consumption, they use a special slaughtering technique. This is to slaughter on the ground. This procedure makes the reindeer meat very tender and makes it also of high quality. The procedure is that you slaughter on the ground, and when it's winter time, it's very cold up here, then the procedure is to leave the carcass a while with the rumen inside. And this procedure makes the temperature in the body decrease, and it also makes it easier for the herder to remove the skin. And in the same time, the meat becomes tender. So this knowledge in the Sami homes are based on the practices and experiences they have gained through generations. And in that way, this knowledge is also validated. It has been and still is the milestone for their existence in the Arctic. I find it very interesting to see how Sami reindeer herders have been able to maintain this special knowledge at their homes, even though modernization processes have been strongly implemented in these areas. Another example from my work is how reindeer herders assess reindeer meat quality. The reindeer herders assess meat quality based on the amount of fat. There is a detailed and a complex system for reindeer meat assessment, which is based on the Sami language and fuzzy logic. As I said previously, this assessment, it starts already on the tundra, where they are watching each reindeer. The quality of meat is actually presented through Sami concepts. This figure shows you which concept they use when they are describing different levels of quality of meat on a live reindeer, on a carcass, and also on the food, with the prepared food afterwards. There are so many concepts and words about fat. It only states that fat is actually a very important quality indicator in Sami food system. It is through this concept they communicate about the quality of food. And I analyzed 42 different fat concepts, but I know there are much, much more. So these are just a few examples I wanted to show you on indigenous food knowledge. My PhD's main goal has been to document this knowledge, which is barely known in the outside world. Further, I discuss how reconciliation of knowledge systems could gain from each other and add value to our general food systems. I see there is a great value in the indigenous knowledge about food, as also the other presenters will present after me. The important work now is to make room for these indigenous voices so that more people can have access to this knowledge. We must keep teaching the children the indigenous way of preparing food and keep educating young people so that we have a bright future ahead of us for the next generations. So that in the future we still can eat healthy food based on sustainable resources and indigenous knowledge. If you're interested in reading more of my works, I urge you to go to Google Scholar and you could search for Sami gastronomy, precious blood, or reindeer meat smoking. Then you will find my research articles. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana Berit Maria. So, the next one to talk now is Alona Gerasimo, Evenki reindeer herders from Samiland.
Hello, everybody. My name is Alona. I'm Indigenous Evenki. I'm from reindeer herding peoples. And I work at the International Center for Reindeer Husbandry. And I live in Kautokeino, Norway. And originally, I'm from Yakutia, from Russia. And today, I will tell you a little bit about the food culture of my people, Evenki. Next. So here's the map to show you where I come from originally. And so here you see, so this is the southern Yakutia. And Yakutia is the biggest district in Russia. And there are 5 indigenous peoples that traditionally involved in reindeer herding that are Evenki, Eveni, Dolgani, Chukchi, and Yukagir. And just show you that how far Rome is from my area. And so reindeer husbandry that my people are practicing belongs to the taiga type of reindeer husbandry, which is characterized by smaller herd of reindeer. And we use reindeer for transportation. And we don't slaughter our reindeer for meat. So our food culture is mainly based on wild reindeer. So we hunt wild reindeer, and the domestic reindeer we slaughter for some big occasions and family occasions, or if their family needs meat. So wild reindeer is the basis for our food culture. And of course, our diet is also complemented by other products, also fish and other animals, birds. And lately, the biggest challenge for my community in terms of consuming traditional food is that since our food is based on wild reindeer, and we have now less of wild reindeer because it's either migrated to different places because they change the routes of migration, and there are a lot of industrial development around. So we eat less of the domestic reindeer, and we have more other products to our diet, chicken, beef, which is a challenge for us. Also on the right picture on the slide, you see one of the traditional dish. It's a blood sausage, Evenki blood sausage, and it's white. And when I got introduced to Sami reindeer husbandry, and we were talking about our food traditions, and they were asking, how is the blood sausage is not supposed to be white. It's because red. The blood is red, but that's the specifics of the foods, and of course it starts from the way you, not only how you cook it in the kitchen, but also it starts from the way you slaughter the animal and how you process how you work with the blood. So when we work in this kitchen that you see now, it's always exchange of our knowledge, of our experiences. So I learn a lot from Elisawe, and I share my experience with her, and also Inger Anita, our traditional knowledge holder, always teaching us, and we like to learn from her, and we like to invite young indigenous peoples also to work with us in the kitchen, and then we present our food with you. We're really happy to share with you what we've learned and experienced from each other. As I said, that's the process of getting the white blood cells. And also, reindeer is it's the main, it's the core of Evenki cultures, as well as for other reindeer herding peoples. We respect this animal. It's our main, our core, the core of our culture. So we never waste it. So when we eat reindeer, we eat everything, and nothing is wasted from the reindeer except for reindeer spleen, the only organ that we don't eat. But the rest, the skin goes for cloth, the bones and the antlers goes for tools or for other handicrafts. So it's never about waste, and we always trying to share that also in our kitchen. So here on the picture you see our ancient traditional dish, which is called kapka, and it's a sausage from reindeer throat, which is filled with reindeer lips and cheeks, and it's barbecued by the fire. My grandmother used to really love this dish, and it was really important to me to share with others about this knowledge. So that's why we chose to write about this dish in the book that became the best book in the world in 2018, and it's called ELU. It's the result of the Arctic Council project with 50 young authors, indigenous authors, writing about their food cultures. And yeah, that's a big achievement and recognition for our cultures. And of course, one of the characteristics for tiger reindeer husbandry, it's also that we milk reindeer. It's very important also complementary our diet. And Hongurtul also from Mongolia, they also milk reindeer. And in our project that Svein talked about, we will prepare the course or the workshop about the milking of reindeer, and we will be very excited to share the results with you. The reindeer milk is very fat, lactose-free, and you cannot drink it as it is. So you have to cook it or make some products out of it. So that was the short introduction to my people's food culture, and thank you very much for inviting me to this session.
Thank you, Alona. That was excellent. Join us in the milking course, milking of reindeer. Alona is responsible in the project to make a course on milking of the reindeer, which actually means using the land differently. So I will now continue the program. And there is one very special place on Earth. You know? It's very far north, and it's 700,000 reindeer. 700,000 reindeer, that's a pretty big herd, you know? And it's 15,000 reindeer herders. I came walking on that tundra many, many years ago. And in front of me, a little girl came up to me and said, "Svein, I like to work with you." And she is the only one today who talks Sami and Annette. Nietzsche Sereteto, she is going to talk to you about Nanette's Yamal food culture and with translation.
Здравствуйте, Андорова. Меня зовут Саратета Нечий, и я из оленеводческой семьи. Моя семья кочует на Ямале. Ямал, он имеет неофициальный статус мирового оленеводства, потому что, Свен говорил, что 700, сейчас, скорее всего, более 600 тысяч оленей, поголовья оленей.
I'm happy to welcome you all. My name is Neche Seratetto, and I come from reindeer husbandry. We are family of nomads, and my family is actually migrating right now. I come from Yamal, and Svein mentioned earlier that there are around 700,000 animals. I think it's a bit less now, around 6,100 animals in Yamal at the moment.
Сейчас моя семья находится на летних пастбищах, но они уже начали кочевать на зимние пастбища, потому что мы весной кочуем в сторону севера, а уже к осени более к теплым местам, в таежной зоне, в сторону юга.
And Yamal is unofficially known as the world center of reindeer husbandry. And as I've already said, my family is migrating now, and traditionally in the spring we migrate towards more northern areas, and when the cold weather arrives we usually migrate towards the south.
И для оленевода, именно для немцев, олени это все, потому что из оленя шкуры делается одежда, олени мясом, кровью и другими продуктами питаются, из оленей их шкуры делается покрытие для чума, поэтому это еда, жилище, транспорт.
We use the whole of the reindeer. It's a zero waste approach towards reindeer because we eat the meat, we eat the blood, we eat the byproducts. We make our clothes out of the skin, and we are trying to use as much as we can because for us, for the Nenets people, our reindeer is everything.
И поэтому оленеводы все делают для того, чтобы было хорошо оленю. Если хорошо оленю, то хорошо оленеводу, потому что его олени здоровы, и летом вот часто кочуют именно на длинные расстояния.
And we are trying to do our best to accommodate our reindeer because if our reindeer feels safe and sound, then it means that we are also safe and sound. As long as our reindeer can thrive, we as people, we can also thrive. That's why we are trying to accommodate their migration, to bring them to the best pastures and to give the best as we can to them, because it's a benefit for us.
Основа питания у нас для немцев входит это рыба, и для оленеводов, для немцев это мясо. Его едят в сыром, вяленом, копченом виде. И сегодня я вам больше расскажу про гаябат. Это употребление оленевого мяса в сыром виде.
The basis of our diet is, of course, reindeer meat and fish, and we eat our products both raw and boiled, baked, cooked, dried, smoked. And today I would like to focus mostly on a very specific ritual, a sacred ritual for the Nenets people called Nayabad.
Я сегодня привезла с собой мясо, конечно, не сырое, да, в вяленом виде, и поэтому я предлагаю ребятам угостить вас. Можете, наверное, пойти.
And today I brought some reindeer meat from Yamal. Unfortunately, it's not the raw meat, but it is some smoked and dried meat. So please help yourself while I'm talking now.
Гаебат — это забитый олень именно с помощью удушения, потому что ненцы для своего употребления оленя именно душат. А если другим методом, даже, например, в забойном пункте, то его чаще всего сырую не едят, только либо варят, коптят, но в сыром виде едят именно с помощью забитого оленя с помощью удушения.
Nayabat is a very specific type of ritual, and for this ritual we have to slaughter the reindeer by strangling, and it's impossible to perform this at the slaughterhouse, at the slaughtering unit, because there with the technical processing the meat is either processed further or boiled or cooked, but for the Nayabat we need the raw products from the reindeer that was just strangled.
И с помощью забитого оленя с помощью удушения в результате сохраняется в мясе кровь, и мясо остается более сочным, и также сохраняются все витамины, микроэлементы. Например, раньше люди, которые отказывались пить кровь, они чаще заболевали цингой, умирали. Были даже такие примеры, когда исследователи приезжали на Ямал, и одни соглашались среди оленеводов пить кровь, и они оставались здоровыми, а те, кто отказывались, они чаще всего заболевали.
Because if you strangle the reindeer, you preserve the blood within the meat, and it helps a lot. It's also vital in the Arctic because consuming raw meat and raw blood can prevent the scurvy and lots of other diseases. And when researchers came to our communities and some of them refused to take this raw meat with the blood, we saw them suffering with many diseases. But those who consumed the raw meat and the raw blood didn't have any problems.
Также у нас, например, более взрослое поколение, пожилые люди, когда пробуют мясо, забитое, например, на забойном пункте, с которого стекает во время забоя кровь, они говорят, что оно намного жестче, тверже, и оно не такое сочное, как забитое дома с помощью удушения олень, который вот в мясо впитал кровь.
And even when we talk to our elders and they have to assess the quality of meat, which was slaughtered, for example, at the slaughter unit, the meat is not as tender, not as soft, and not so much blood is preserved because the carcass is basically drained when compared to the reindeer that is slaughtered by strangling at home.
И сейчас я уже говорила, что у нас оленеводы кочуют вместе со своим стадом. Иногда это достигает 800 километров, иногда у кого-то 1000, у всех по-разному. И все оленеводы стараются же с малых лет приучить этим методам забоя своих детей. И поэтому уже где-то с начальных классов уже дети учатся разделывать оленя.
And because, you know, we are migrating, and we are migrating very long distances, for example, 800 kilometers or up to 1,000 kilometers. And it means that we are migrating with our families. That's why children from early age are learning this traditional method of slaughtering.
И поэтому уже Рауна говорила, что дети перенимают опыт, и оленеводы знают, где каждая часть, где режется, как варится или как естся, потому что есть части, которые, например, все равно в сыром виде не едят, а есть то, что можно только в сыром виде есть, и также употребляются все продукты без отходов.
And as Ravna has already mentioned in her presentation, from early age, children learn how to slaughter the reindeer, how to choose the reindeer, how to assess the quality, how to arrange cuts, which part of the reindeer can be eaten raw, and which part has to be cooked, which part goes to whom, because this is also important. That is part of our traditional knowledge, which children learn on the spot. They learn it by doing it.
И также я уже ранее сказала, что безотходное производство, это используются все кишки, сердце, почки и так далее. И у нас, например, на забойных пунктах иногда оленеводы бывают возмущены, что некоторые субпродукты просто выкидываются, что нету понимания, что с ними дальше делать, и просто где-то там рядом с забойными пунктами валяются.
And as I have already mentioned, the traditional indigenous way of doing it implies zero waste. We are not wasting anything. Everything is good for something, be it the lungs, the kidney, whatever. And that's why reindeer herders, when they see these processing and slaughterhouses, they see how they are wasting the byproducts. They get really frustrated because everything could be used, because this is part of our lifestyle.
Ну и это еще олени забиты вот на забойном пункте, когда их подвешивают и кровь стекает. Даже, например, когда у нас оленя забивают сердце, уже кровь уходит, и даже такого оленя, мясо оленя уже не употребляют сами оленеводы. И тоже у оленеводов очень богатые знания именно как подбирать оленя, в каком сезоне, во время какого сезона, какого оленя забить, это по возрасту, по полу, потому что, например, уже ближе к весне важенку никогда не забьют.
And also in the slaughterhouse, because they hang the carcass and the blood is just drained, it leaves the heart. And it means that the meat is tough, and the reindeer herder themselves, they will never eat this meat. They will never tolerate this meat for their home consumption, because choosing the animal that you're about to slaughter is also part of our traditional knowledge, because we always know in which season what type of the animal we want to slaughter, what age should the animal be. For example, in the spring we will never slaughter a female, and that's the basis.
Мы также с девочками, с Ямала, тоже с оленеводческой, с Мартой и с Эльвирой писали статью о традиционном забое, о Гаебат в проекте Ялю. Вот сегодня нам показывали книгу.
And we described all this, and we wrote a scientific article which is part of this edition, EALU, Indigenous Youth, Food Knowledge and Arctic Change, together with my colleagues, young reindeer herders, Marta and Elvira Acatetta.
Я на этом завершу свое выступление.
And this is it from me so far. Thank you.
Mas. Mas.
Mas.
That means in the Nets language more. You know? Mas. Thank you. Спасибо большое. Thank you so much. We will continue to Mongolia. And where is your? Have we lost? We have lost. Marina, we have lost PowerPoint. And from Mongolia and Evenki, no, Doha Reindeer Husbandry, Hongar Sol is going to talk to you. She came from Saganur in northern part of Mongolia yesterday. Hongar Sol is a skilled reindeer herder. Reindeer husbandry in Mongolia is small but strong. Yes, please.
Thank you, Swain. Hello, everyone. My name is Hongorjul. I came from Mongolia. As you see, I am Doha reindeer herder who lives in Mongolia. And now I want to talk about my food tradition a bit. So at first, I want to talk about who are we, who are the Doha people, how we live, and our lifestyle a bit. And Doha is the ethnic group of people and indigenous who live with their reindeer and near the nature and nomadic life. And as you see, there are the moving picture. In Mongolia, we move 6 to 8 times in a year between our pasture lands for the reindeers. And this is a picture of my family moving. And this is my sister back on the back of the reindeer. Of course, this is a moving picture. And as you see, they are a TV. Like now we are sitting in it's same. Of course, it's smaller than that one, but in Mongolia we leave this kind of teepee which cover the canvas. And our food culture. At first, I want to talk about reindeer milk. We milk reindeers twice or once a day. This is me milking my reindeer, and that one is my milk. And also, we can take milk from the one reindeer 200 or 250 milliliters a day. So that means it's 4 or 3 reindeers' milk. And reindeer milk is among the richest and most nutritious of milk, with 22% fat and 10% protein. And also, reindeer milk is an excellent source of calcium and protein, making it ideal for bone health and muscle building. It's also a rich source of vitamin A, which promotes healthy eyesight. And I've tried to prefer the milk, cow milk and reindeer milk. And as you can see, cow milk has a butter fat is 7% and protein is 3 to 4%. And reindeer milk has butter fat is 22% and protein is 10%. And that means the reindeer milk has 2 or 3 times more butter fat and proteins. Next one is reindeer cheese. We make a cheese by our reindeer milk. As you see, we are preparing the cheese, and this is process of the drying our cheese, how we keep it dry and how to keep it. And this is we are preparing for the whey and the curd. That means the cheese. And this is the small process. Step 1, we are boiling our milk. And after that, separate whey and curd. And next one is taking a shape, like kind of plate, and use it a cutting board and a big rock. Yeah. Also, this is a whey. And we won't waste it. We don't waste it because we can take a butter from the whey after a day. It's really tasty and fatty. Also, next one is I want to talk about our homemade bread and rhubarb jam. And this is my mom and someone, the tourist, learning how to make our homemade bread. And this is the bread ready to eat. And this yellow one is rhubarb jam we eat and make it. Also, we make blueberry and blackberry jam. Then I thought it might be interesting. Rhubarb jam is here. And last one, I wanted to say we have a traditional bread. We call it honggong. It's really tasty and it's the making way is interesting, so I wanted to show a video about how to make it.
Thank you so much.
It's a video, but
It's very interesting, and I have been in your mother's home. Yes, you know.
yes, I know.
And you're really brought up with a lot of good food. Doha, reindeer husbandry means very focus on food and indigenous knowledge. This is why it's so interesting to listen to you when Sami reindeer herders are in the stage of rethinking the food system. There it goes.
Хүү яаж та?
Ингээд одоо нөхөлж байгаад одоо хийлдэн гэж байгаа.
Оо за.
Нөхөтэй хийлдэн ингээд нөхөтэй хийх бол гол нь түүхээр ч идэм. Заавалтай нөхөтэй хийдэг.
That's amazing. Wow. Ямар нэг эсгэгч бол ороогүй юм тийм.
Ороод.
Ордоггүй юм бэ?
Ордоггүй дагуулсан ордог.
Тийм ээ. Super amazing.
Ингээд одоо хөнгөн болно.
I still don't have any idea of this one.
Шууд үнсэнд болчих юм уу?
Үнсэндээ болно гэдэг.
Hey. What? Ингэ болчих тийм үү?
Ингээд болчих юм байна.
Гал нэхгүй юу? Одоо ингэ
Одоо нэмэхгүй. Гал нэмэхгүй одоо төлөвтэй.
What the method is that? Huh? Dough is in an ash. That's the hungong.
Хөнгөн болсон байна.
Wow, dudes, after 3 hours, hungong is ready to go. Wow. Whew. Jetzt.
Ингээд сайн цэвэрлэр. Ингээд арч.
Яг л манай нөгөө цагирган бов шиг хөрхийд байна. Very traditional satin bread, like a big donut. Wow, so
This was our traditional bread named Hongkong. So that's all. Thank you for everyone.
And we invite you all to join. We invite you all to join us for the milking course in Mongolia. I will go. Yes, come please. Then I will give the word to Marina Tonkapeva. You have some news.
Thank you. Yes, I do have some exciting news, and that is that our book, Reindeer Husbandry, Resilience in the Changing Arctic, Volume 2, is now released officially. And the launch of the book took place last week at Harvard Kennedy School in Boston. And here you can see some freshly baked copies, very few of them. But more will be available also online, as it is an open access book, so you can read it freely. And if you want to have a hard copy, you can contact us or you can contact Springer. And why is this book so important? Today we've been talking a lot about the food knowledge and indigenous knowledge, the traditional systems, and this book. Can we switch to the next slide, please? Yeah. And this book also addresses some of the challenges that we discussed today. For example, what are the methodologies that we could use to document traditional indigenous knowledge of reindeer herders, or how we could replicate it in other indigenous communities? It is here in this book. It is learning by doing. It is learning through generation and generation of accumulated knowledge. There is also a chapter, a more detailed chapter, on the reindeer herders' food knowledge systems. And the authors of this chapter have been presenting here today. That is Ravna Berit Maria, Eira Sara, and Anders Oskal. And there is also a chapter on resilience thinking in reindeer husbandry. How are we debunking the myths about reindeer husbandry when they start telling us that reindeer actually produce methane? Isn't it a bit nonsense? And Svein showed some of the excerpts from this chapter, which shows that it does not. So these arguments that are people trying to use to reduce the number of reindeer. They are all discussed in this book, and I really want everyone to read it and think about it. And we will try to distribute more copies when we have them, because now we only have 2 with us. But I encourage you all to read it and appreciate the work that has been done, because every chapter in this book, and we have the senior editor of the Springer Polar Sciences with us today. It was a nice surprise to meet you, but yeah. I'm really happy that you are here with us, because each chapter went through 2 to 7 reviewers, and it was the process of blind peer review. And I would like to acknowledge the efforts of every author and editor who was engaged in this book. It was a very long journey, more than 20 years of work for Professor Svein Mathiesen, more than 2 years of work for me personally, and I'm really happy and relieved that this work is done. And I would like to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. And please join us. Stop land degradation in the Arctic. We stop, and we have to fix the food system. That's our promise to Jeff and FAO. So I will give a word to Jon Fernandez de la Ronoa. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. My name is John Fernandez La Renoa. In our language, it means you come from the foggy pastures. So we are related to pastoral lands. That's what La Renoa means in our language. So thank you so much for the use of the word. I want to say 2 or 3 things. If you looked at the logo of FAO, it's the Food and Agriculture Organization. It's not the Agriculture and Food Organization. It's the Food and Agriculture Organization. Because food was before agriculture. And a lot of the food systems that you are sharing here, they anticipated agriculture by thousands of years. But today, many scientists, they think of food and immediately they think of crops, intensive crops, fertilizers, technology. And this is very incomplete and sometimes misleading. Many of the food systems across the world are like the food systems we have seen from Mongolia, from Russia, and certainly Arctic food systems. And we are always telling many of the agronomists, particularly, but also the colleagues. As you know, we are the Indigenous Peoples Unit, so we work very hard with foresters, agronomists, different colleagues that are very well intended. But they very often think of crops. They don't think of pastoralists. They are not used to work with mobile pastoralists. They don't understand the sense of moving with animals and having a relationship that is very close to the movements of the animals. And this creates many problems that start with the metrics that we use. Most of the metrics we use to measure performance on food are quantitative metrics. The yield, the production, the efficiency. So many of the things and knowledge you have shared with us, the current way of measuring performance in agriculture does not contemplate them. So one of the things I think, and I invite that we do together with our brothers and sisters from the Arctic, is to come up with alternative metrics that incorporate what Professor Svein was telling us, the protection of the environment, the management of the biodiversity, and also a territorial management that not only generates food, but doesn't produce food waste, that is balanced in terms of energy use. And all of these concepts are not incorporated today in the metrics of agriculture. They are not. There's a big debate. We have been working with Anders, we have been working with Marina, we have been working with James, we are working with many of you to try to change this mindset that is still, unfortunately, within many scientists, that they measure performance through quantities. We see it in economy, we see it also in food, we see it in agriculture. For us, it's very important that Arctic pastoralists, nomadic people, Mongolian brothers and sisters, they come to FAO and they remind us of the importance of mobility and the importance of indigenous people's food and knowledge systems. What you have shown us is not only food, it's all the knowledge accumulated for hundreds, thousands of years. And it very much depends on language. And one of the things that we are the most concerned about is education. The education systems are not supporting your knowledge systems very often. They're going against your knowledge systems. We see this in many countries across the world, and it is something that we need to come up with alternative models of education that give value to what you have shown us here today. Because that is the future of the food systems. We cannot continue this way of living if then the educational system is telling us that this is no good. And that's a little bit the dichotomy that we are seeing. So thank you so much for inviting me. You can count with the support of the FAO Indigenous Peoples Unit. We have been working, we have been also profiling some of the indigenous people's food systems in the Arctic. We work with the Inari Sami, profiling the Inari Sami indigenous people's food systems. And we would like to work with some of you to profile some of these food systems to do exactly what Professor Svein was saying, no? To stop the land degradation in the Arctic and to stop the destruction of the Arctic. So thank you so very much for inviting me to this inner circle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jon, for very good words. We are very happy of a little group covering this huge territory. You know, we are talking about all these perspectives to cooperate with Harvard Business School. Because our group has actually, for the last 20 years, been working with Harvard Business Schools. The reason is that in Norway, it was impossible to talk about indigenous knowledge in science. Impossible. I came together with our senior reindeer herder, Johan Mattis Turi, to Harvard 2002. That gave us a room to develop all this program because they said, come on, we need all available knowledge. That was not the case in Norway. Sofus, Reinert, you are professor at business school. Could you please give us some concluding remarks and a way forward?
Sure. Thank you for that, Svein. And thank you, most importantly, for welcoming me around your fire and your land. I'm cognizant of one of the beauties of being a professor is that you can keep learning only lifelong. And I'm here as a student, not as a teacher. But I guess for context, I've known Anders and Svein longer than it took them to write this book. So I feel I've been marked by reindeer myself. And I'd just like to see a couple of things from my perspective, which is obviously that of someone who's been invested in this, but never only a part of it, which is that you need the bridge. We have a two-way system. We worked together on programs at Harvard for essentially setting up teaching programs for young indigenous leaders such as yourselves. And that is incredibly important. On the other hand, my project these past few years has been making sure that our Harvard students hear your story. It needs to go both ways. Our students need to read the balance of payments and know double entry bookkeeping, but they also need to hear your story. As Dario pointed out this morning, it's no longer a question of north and south or center and periphery. The crises we're seeing are global in nature, and we need all hands on deck, so to speak. And hearing from you today, your extraordinary holistic understanding of how food systems can operate sustainably for millennia is a story that is of global and perennial pertinence. As Silja said this morning, for too long have we been putting too much fish in our freezers, over essentially abusing our resources. And my fear is that they're not even in the freezer, we've just been letting them there to rot. And there's an urgency to this, and your message is important for all our students. And from my perspective as a historian, a long-run historian, it is strangely appropriate to sit around this fire here, in that it's on indigenous land, on UN land, but in Italy. And Italy, year after year after year, is decreed to be the world's most appreciated cuisine. And it's not happening. No, we can debate, of course, but it's not happening because Italians have jumped at every new fad that came their way. It's come through the very careful nurturing of traditional recipes. Every region has its specialty cheeses, and it proves, in a sense, it's proof of the pudding that there is an enormous demand, not to be all too businessy about it, but for very high value added traditional goods. And this, I feel, is one of the outcomes of this. But that gets me to the other way in which I think Italy is relevant for us, that you will have heard a lot about innovation these past few days, sort of a theme. And I've spent a lot of time now in a place that has taken innovation to a certain extreme, the sort of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg extreme, that we should move fast and break things. And we've learned all together that there are certain things we break that we're unable to put together again. And maybe it would be useful not to break everything to begin with. So I'm reminded of, mottos for life. And just across the street here, a few thousand years ago, Emperor Augustus liked to speak to the people of ancient Rome. And his personal motto was festina lente, make haste slowly. And obviously there are crises, action needs to be taken, but we don't need to rush into it. We can cautiously, respecting the traditions we need to safeguard, allow for actual change. I'm a Norwegian, so I'm quite depressed often. It comes with being Norwegian. But I must say, having now spent some time with young leaders from around the world, I am far, far more optimistic. And I'm reminded of I'll end with this, but I'm reminded of this beautiful quote by Margaret Mead. You can debate her work all day long, but she said one thing, which I think is incredibly important. Never doubt that a small group of dedicated people can change the world. Few other things ever have. So please make your voices heard, and thank you for inviting me. And I must say, speaking of ancestry, my son, to join you around the fire. Because ancestry, I've learned since last night, is not simply about being aware and respecting those who come before you. It's being aware of your duties to those who come after you. And it's in this spirit I hope we all together can make for this better world in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophus. And I will give the very final word to Sarah Elvira Kopman, who's sitting on my right side. She is a Sami reindeer herder from Sweden. She is fighting to be in the Swedish competition to be the best singer in Sweden just now. But I know, yes. Yeah, and but she's always willing to talk about reindeer husbandry. She's a diplomat. She's a world-famous diplomat. And she has offered to meet the Mongolian Minister of Foreign Affairs in Stockholm within some days together with me, because she's a very good diplomat. So I give the word to you to decide how you could round this off, Sarah Elvira.
Thank you, Svein. I was so prepared that I had to hold some kind of speech or something, but I will actually end this session with the thing I feel that I'm the best on to do with, and it's to end it with Ajork.
Thank you so much, Sarah Villa-Koopman. I think I should say no more, you know. Thank you. Because when you are singing, I'm back to the tundra, Yamal tundra, where we left it many years ago. Thank you.